Hi, and welcome to session 3 in our Personal Foundation series. I'm so excited about this series. I'm hoping that you've been having good discussions in your home group. It's a good chance to get to know one another, but it's also a great chance for you to personally take a look at the inner culture of your life and to figure out what soil is all the good advice and all of what God wants to do in your life. What soil is sitting inside so that when the seed falls on it, it can grow. Today, we're going to look at the topic of time. I've discovered that when I'm disorganized with my time, a whole bunch of these negative symptoms, I guess, come up. There's a clutter of things to do that just pile up. I forget appointments. I've got messages that just keep going up and up and up. I miss my deadlines. I tend to, if I'm disorganized with my time, I end up just wasting time. I invest my energies in unproductive things. I find that I run out of time to even spend with God because if I'm disorganized with time, I actually don't have enough time. The quality of my personal relationships suffer even. I like what Gordon MacDonald says. He says, when we are disorganized in our control of time, we end up not liking ourselves or our jobs or much else about our worlds. Think about that for a while. Who's the big loser if we aren't careful with our use of time? We are the sum total of our time. The minutes, hours, days, weeks of our time, they make up our life. You know, we now live in an era, I guess, where it's hard to know where your money goes. And I'm using a money analogy because I feel like money and time can be kind of linked. In today's day and age, we just pay for things by subscription, or we're not really passing cash around. So there's a tendency in today's modern generation to just spend money and not know where it goes. And so then we don't budget our money. We find out, oh my goodness, I didn't realize I was spending so much on chai lattes or whatever it is, right? And so then we end up losing bits of our money. Now, time is a little bit like that, because if we aren't, careful with how we spend our time, and again, you don't go, here is $10 of my time, here's, right? It's kind of invisible for us, like where money has become nowadays. We can find ourselves actually just losing or wasting chunks of it. So you get up at 7 a.m. in the morning, but it's literally 8 a.m. before you get out of bed, and an hour of time has gone by because you're just scrolling on the phone. Or maybe in the evening, you're going to bed at night and you're like, hey, I'm gonna sleep. And so you go to bed at 10 p.m., but it is midnight before you actually sleep. Where did 2 hours go, right? And so I think what we want to do is, as we explore our inner life, as we explore the things underneath the surface, we want to figure out how can we use our time wisely. Ephesians 5 verse 15 to 16 says this: be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil. Meaning that actually, if you don't pay attention to how we spend our time, the days that are evil will just kind of hijack your time. I guess throw you off course. And so we've got to be intentional about it. We've got to ask the question, is Jesus the Lord of our time? Is Jesus directing what we do with our time. In fact, Jesus himself is a very good example. He clearly understood his own mission and calling, and he measured his use of time against that mission. So he had his own limits. He knew when he had to go back and rest. He moved from city to city, right? And he knew his own weaknesses as a human being. I like Gordon MacDonald's laws of time. I'm just going to talk a little bit about it before you get into your discussion session. But Gordon MacDonald says that unmanaged time flows towards your area of weakness. So you end up doing things that is just your natural weakness if you're not managing your time. So you always like watching TV, or you always like whatever, right? So then as you unmanage your time, you'll naturally find yourself veering towards not developing your strengths, not getting better at what God has called you. You won't naturally do that. You'll naturally fall into your area of weakness. It also, another rule he's got is unmanaged time comes under the influence of dominant people in my world. Meaning that God may have a plan for your life, He may have things you want to do, but because you've got a bossy friend, because of the people around you always want to do these other things, they just end up pulling you away from what God has wanted for you. So your unmanaged time becomes under the influence of the dominant people in your world. Unmanaged time, the third one, surrenders to the demands of emergencies. So if you don't manage your time, what happens is you keep doing the urgent thing. Oh, I need to do this now. Somebody's asked me to do this. Oh, I got a call from somebody. And you're just running around fighting fires. And then I like his last one, which is unmanaged time gets invested in things that gain public reward, which is you end up doing things that other people can see or do, and you neglect the topics that we're covering today or through the series. You neglect the inner things that actually no one notices. So I hope you spend some time today as a home group discussing time. There's a time audit worksheet that I really like doing. You don't have to do it all the time, but for a short season, knowing where you spend your time can be one of the best things you do. Just like knowing where you spend your money. God bless.